The day my father died, I thought the pain would come from learning to live without his steady voice or weekend phone calls. But the real heartbreak didn't come from losing him, it came from realizing who my husband really was. My name is Claire Weston. I'm 34 years old, and I had always considered myself practical, level-headed, someone who made solid choices. I had a steady job in commercial real estate, a husband named Marcus, who ran a boutique PR firm, and a father who was my best friend and greatest supporter. My mother passed away when I was 17, so it had just been the two of us for a long time. My dad, William Weston, built his own company from scratch, Weston Properties, and despite his success, he never lost his humility. He brought me into the business when I graduated college, taught me everything, and when his health began to fail last year, he gave me more responsibility. Still, none of that prepared me for his passing or for what came after. 3 days after the funeral, my dad's attorney called to meet. I thought it would be something routine, maybe finalizing paperwork, transferring his car title, the usual estate matters. Instead, he handed me a thick folder and said 6 words that changed everything. He left everything in your name. Everything. The company, the properties, the investment portfolio, the personal accounts. Total value just over 27 million. I couldn't breathe. That kind of money wasn't just life-changing, it was life-redefining. But at that moment, I didn't feel rich. I felt like an orphan. And as I sat on the couch that evening, documents spread across the coffee table, Marcus walked in, glanced at the paperwork, and said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, "So, what's the plan with all this money?" I looked up, still in shock, and everything inside me told me this wasn't going to be the question of the night, but the beginning of something I never saw coming. Marcus sat beside me, eyeing the documents like they were lottery tickets instead of the legacy of a man I had loved deeply. "We should invest it smartly," he said casually. "Maybe get that vacation house in Maui, pay off my mom's mortgage." "Claire, this changes everything." My stomach turned. "Your mom's mortgage?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Marcus, this was my dad's estate. It's not some windfall for your side of the family." He gave a small laugh, almost dismissive. "Come on, Claire. Evelyn's family? You're not seriously thinking of keeping all this separate, are you?" That was the moment the air changed. I felt it, this shift in his gaze, the cold calculation hiding behind his easy smile. It was like someone flipped a switch, and suddenly I was no longer his wife. I was the vault holding the fortune. I'd heard my dad say, once money doesn't change people, it just reveals who they really are. And now, I understood exactly what he meant. The next morning, Evelyn called me. I didn't even know Marcus had told her. "Sweetheart," she chirped, "Marcus told me the wonderful news. We should talk. There's a property I've had my eye on, just a modest thing, but it would mean so much if you helped." I was stunned silent. "Evelyn," I finally said, "I buried my father 4 days ago, and you're asking for real estate advice." She clucked her tongue. "Don't be emotional, dear. Your father would want you to take care of your husband's family." I ended the call. I want to pause here and ask, have you ever lost someone and realized it revealed everyone else's true colors? If this sounds painfully familiar, comment yes below. And don't forget to subscribe to hear the full truth of how I took back my power. Back to the story. Later that night, Marcus came home with roses and this thinly veiled charm act. "Mom's just excited," he said. "Let's not fight." But he was too late. I'd seen enough. Behind every kind word was a plan. I wasn't just Claire anymore, I was a target. And for the first time, I realized I needed to protect what was mine. Marcus's charm didn't last long. Within days, the tone shifted from sweet suggestions to thinly veiled accusations. "You've changed," he said one morning, tossing his keys on the counter. "Ever since your father passed, you've become guarded." I didn't answer. He wasn't wrong, I had become guarded. But not because of grief, because of him. Then Evelyn started showing up. At first, she'd bring wine or desserts, acting like we were the picture of family unity. But I saw through it. One afternoon, I came home to find her sitting in my father's old armchair, flipping through folders from my locked office. I was just looking for a notepad, she said casually, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. You know how forgetful I am. That's when I knew I needed to stop reacting and start preparing. I called my lawyer the next morning. I don't want to start a war, I told him, but I need to know how to protect what my father left me. He didn't hesitate. First step, secure your assets. Second, install cameras. Third, don't confront until you have proof. Something in his voice told me he'd seen this story unfold too many times. So I did everything he said. I locked the filing cabinet. I changed every password. I opened a new bank account under my legal name, only separate from anything Marcus could touch. And I installed discrete security cameras in the office and main hallway. 2 days later, the footage confirmed what I suspected. Evelyn had returned again, digging through drawers, opening folders, even pulling out my father's will. When I showed Marcus the footage, he shrugged. She was just curious, he said. It's not like she stole anything. But it wasn't about theft, it was about intent. About the way they both saw my inheritance not as a memorial of my father's life, but as a joint opportunity they were entitled to. That night, I backed up every file, every video, every bank transaction. If they were going to come for what wasn't theirs, I was going to be ready. What started as grief was rapidly becoming a quiet battle. And I wasn't planning to lose. The final straw wasn't some dramatic outburst. It was the way Marcus looked at me the next morning, as if I were the intruder. "We're supposed to be a team, Isla," he said, standing in the doorway of my office. "You locking me out, hiding things, it's not what couples do." His voice was smooth, but his eyes were sharp. I met his gaze and said nothing. Because at that point, words felt useless. That same day, Evelyn returned. But she didn't knock this time. She walked straight in, carrying a leather-bound folder and her trademark perfume that now made my stomach turn. "We need to talk," she said, helping herself to a seat at my kitchen table. "I've been thinking about how we can best manage this inheritance responsibly." She slid the folder across the table. Inside were proposals, investment portfolios, a mortgage approval in her name, even photos of a house in Beverly Hills. I stood frozen, my grief replaced by pure controlled fury. "You've had this planned," I whispered, "since the funeral." Evelyn smiled, that smug, patronizing smile I'd come to dread. "Oh, sweetheart, don't be naive. You think people leave that kind of money lying around without strings? We're your family. It's only right we all benefit." I looked her dead in the eye and said calmly, "You are not my family. You never were." Her eyes narrowed. "You'll regret that." I didn't flinch. I had finally seen them for who they really were, opportunists wearing masks of concern. And masks were falling fast. Later that night, I opened the folder again, not the one Evelyn brought, but the one from my lawyer. Inside were documents I hadn't dared to review, fully my father's handwritten letters, updates to the trust protective clauses he had added after meeting Marcus. He had sensed something. He had tried to shield me, even from the grave. Tears welled up, not from sadness, but from validation. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was being hunted, and now I was ready to fight back. If you've ever had to defend what someone else thought they deserved, just because they smiled at you, type "yes" in the comments, and subscribe to hear what I did next. Because this story was just beginning. The next morning, I didn't cry. I strategized. I took every document my father left me, every trust clause, every note, every protective measure, and brought it to my lawyer. "I want to safeguard everything I said." He raised an eyebrow. "From your husband." "From all of them," I replied. It was no longer about grief. It was about defense. The man I married, the woman who pretended to be family, they weren't just greedy. They were predators, circling what they thought was unguarded prey. While Marcus played the doting husband cooking dinner and complimenting my outfits, I installed cameras in the office. I encrypted my files. I changed passwords, updated accounts, opened a private trust, and documented every shift in tone, every side-eye glance when money came up in conversation. I wasn't losing sleep anymore. I was building my fortress. Then it happened. I returned from a quick meeting to find my office door ajar. Marcus stood in front of my filing cabinet, looking stunned when I caught him mid-rummage. "What are you doing?" I asked. He smiled weak and unconvincing, just looking for the printer ink. The drawer he had opened was nowhere near the supplies, but I didn't confront him, not yet. The footage from the camera would speak louder. The next day, Evelyn showed up again, this time with a realtor. "We're thinking this place could list for close to $2 million," she said casually, strolling through my foyer like it belonged to her. "And with the right renovations." I cut her off cold. "You're not listing anything. You don't live here. You never have." She laughed. "Oh, honey. Not yet." I kicked them both out. That night, I sat down with my attorney and handed him the video evidence of Marcus's snooping. "We go forward," I said. "Divorce." Quietly, cleanly, but decisively. He nodded as if he'd been waiting for that moment. What they didn't know was that I wasn't just protecting money. I was protecting my father's legacy, my sanity, and the life I'd built. They thought they were playing chess with a pawn. They didn't realize I'd already moved my queen. And I was one step from checkmate. 2 days later, I found Evelyn in my kitchen barefoot, sipping from my favorite mug like it was hers. Her robe hung loosely around her shoulders, and the entitlement in her eyes made my skin crawl. "We need to talk," she said, as if we were equals. I didn't move. "You need to leave," she smirked. "I just want to be sure you're not doing anything impulsive." A woman under stress grieving emotional can make big mistakes with money. I clenched my jaw. "You mean like not giving millions to someone who's never earned a dime of it?" Her face hardened. "You always thought you were better than us. Let's see how long you last once you're truly alone." I didn't flinch. I didn't yell. I simply pointed to the door and said, "Out." And when the door clicked shut behind her, I made the call I'd been rehearsing for days. "It's time," I told my lawyer. "File the papers." That evening, I asked Marcus to meet me at a neutral cafe. He came in late, wearing fake warmth and forced charm. When I slid the divorce folder across the table, he laughed. "You're really doing this over money?" I didn't blink. "Over betrayal," I replied. "Over watching you and your mother treat my father's death like a financial windfall." He didn't speak until I mentioned the flash drive, the one with the videos, the voice recordings, the screen captures. His smile vanished. "You planned this." "No," I corrected. "You planned the manipulation. I just planned the exit." At home, I locked down everything. I moved the last funds to a trust my father had created for unforeseen betrayals. The locks changed. The security system reset. And when Marcus tried one last time to plead, flowers in hand, voice trembling, I shut the door before he could speak. He had chosen his side the moment he defended her. That night, I stood in my father's study, surrounded by his books, his scent still faint on the leather chair. I whispered, "I protected what mattered, Dad. I didn't let them destroy it." And for the first time in weeks, I felt peace, not revenge, not victory, just peace. But I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. I thought signing the divorce papers would be the final chapter, but some endings are just new beginnings in disguise. In the days that followed, Marcus tried everything from guilt to gaslighting. He emailed me a spreadsheet outlining our future investments. He had the audacity to suggest co-parenting a financial empire we never built together. Evelyn. She doubled down, leaving a voicemail every morning, each more manipulative than the last. One ended with, "You may have won the battle, Isla, but trust me. The war isn't over." But I wasn't at war. I was healing. I poured myself into rebuilding on my own terms. I met with a grief counselor, reopened my marketing consultancy, and reconnected with people who reminded me who I was, before betrayal clouded my reflection. And then came the lesson. It's not just about protecting your wealth, it's about protecting your peace. Still, something inside me knew I wasn't the only one. One afternoon, after speaking at a local women's business event, a woman approached me. Tears in her eyes, she whispered, "Your story. It's mine too. Thank you for telling it." In that moment, I realized my voice was no longer just my own. It was armor and anthem for others who'd been silenced. So if you're watching this, and you've ever been made to feel small, selfish, or guilty for standing up for yourself, don't shrink. Comment yes. If you've ever faced a betrayal, You had to rise above and subscribe to this channel for more stories of strength, clarity, and quiet power. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't anger, it's peace, it's rebuilding, and it's walking away from the fire without ever looking back.